This is Beyond the Sidelines with Ethan Schmidt and George Belecci, only on 4stateshomepage.com.
Well, welcome into Week 7 of Beyond the Sidelines. I'm Ethan Schmidt. He's George Belecci. I introduced us this week. Last week, I was just so fired up to get into the action.
And we're fired up to get into the action this week as well, because for the game of the week with Cassville and McDonald County, we saw the Wildcats once again really prove themselves, Ethan.
Yeah, that's right. Cassville comes out. They win 37-6. It was the rushing attack in that first half that was really just getting everything going. The first touchdown coming on Bowen Preddy on a little pitch out. He gets out there, I believe it was a little option run out to the left. He ends up finding the end zone to get the scoring going. However, I have to say, McDonald County did respond. Ben Mora, the quarterback, actually got in on a great read. We talked about quarterbacks that can read that option. Ben Mora did a really great job. He waited to the last second, and as soon as the defensive end grabbed the fullback, he took off into the end zone for a touchdown. So that made it 7-6, and then it just kind of became Cassville's game. A lot of things went right for him. They did throw an interception at one point, so I mean, not everything was going right, but they did recover a fumble. And then, you know, Anthony Tolbert scored from a yard out. It's hard to stop a guy like Anthony Tolbert on the 1-yard line. I mean, he's a big, physical guy.
And he's a guy that could break you for a long run, too, as he did right before the halftime.
Yeah, right before half. Yeah, you're right, George, on that one. The 90-yard touchdown. I have to set you up on this one because before that play, Bowen Preddy breaks an 80-yard touchdown run and it gets called back for holding. So now you're back on your 10-yard line instead of your 20. And then Anthony Tolbert, he gets an amazing block by a young man by the last name of Hendricks. Gets a beautiful block on the outside, and then Tolbert is gone to the end zone, 90 yards right before the half. And that kind of just played into the second half. As I mentioned, they go on to win 37-6, and they are still undefeated.
And what I love about, you mentioned Tolbert on that long run, when you watch it, the stamina that he shows, because even when he breaks the goal line, he still keeps running. No break in stride at all, full speed for what seemed like a full 80 yards once he got past that 10-yard break to break that run. But going up against McDonald County, what Cassville was not concerned about but paying attention to, that was the biggest offensive line and defensive line they'd faced thus far into the season. But what they did, they got out and they started scoring early. Out of their over 270 points this season, 188 have come in the first half. So if you want to beat Cassville, if you want to try and stop the Wildcats, which good luck to you, you got to find a way to keep up with them or limit them in the first half. And on top of that, they average over 300 yards a game on the ground. Anthony Tolbert, like you mentioned, 160 plus, 2 scores himself. And we've seen Shannon Haney make the plays, Bowen Preddy make the plays. But the defense too, because what they were able to do to contain the McDonald County rushing attack, force them, and like I said, can they keep it close? Can McDonald County's defense step it up? Because once the score got long, it became tough. You got to do a little more than run the ball, and that's where McDonald County struggled. Ben Mora did a good job running the ball. He doesn't exactly have the receivers around him yet, and he's a junior, so he's still growing with the system and everything like that. He just needs to continue to grow. But, I mean, it's hats off to Cassville. It's not more of what Mac County didn't do right. It's more of what Cassville did right.
Right.
And I think if they live up to the hype in Class 3, I said before the season they could be for real. Now at this point in the season, they're a Final Four team. Right. I believe.
And I think I watched him as well. I agree with you there. One of the things that you mentioned was that defense stepping up. And you had a running back coming into this for McDonald County named Oakley Rossler. And you have to give this young man credit because he is so talented when he runs the ball. He has already hit over 1,000 yards on the season. But McDonald County, in that game, they shut him down. Anything that was going up the middle, they made sure that there was, 8 has the ball, 9, 10, 11. Everybody was swarming on Oakley, so he could not break those runs that he's used to getting. I mean, you think of the games where he put up over 300 yards and broke the school record. He had 5 touchdowns in that game as well, over 200 yards a week after that. I think over 250 and then 270. So you think of all those yardage coming into this game, and for Cassville, they had to really step up and make sure that Oakley did not beat them like he had done so many other teams leading into that. I mean, you think of the Hollister game, that was the only one that they lost, and they lost by 1 touchdown. And all 4 of the scores were Oakley Rossler.
And even for Mac County, that was a game in Hollister that kind of came out flat. Because what they still struggle with, and they were the underdogs coming into this game, they're struggling with not being the underdog. Can they step up when people expect them to win? Can they win? And it showed. They took on the biggest test of the season because you go the week prior against Nevada, Mac County is having their way at the line of scrimmage. This game, and the coaches said leading up to it, will be the won and lost in the trenches. You look at that Cassville defense in the secondary, DJ White, in the linebacking core, Anthony Tolbert, up front, Tiny Ellis. They have a guy at every point in that defense that Coach Parnell can turn to step up and lead. And a big part, I caught it when I was there at practice earlier in the week, that they earn their starting role. They earn the black jerseys they wear in practice. It's something to take a lot of pride in. And it shows they have the athletes. That's why I believe in them, because on top of winning in the trenches, having the big dudes up front, being able to run the ball, I'll always take a team that can play defense. Cassville once again flexed and showed us why we should believe in them.
Absolutely. George, we'll move on now into another game that went one-sided. In the whole game, it was Webb City 41, Willard nothing when the final clock struck there and the final second ticked off. Webb City, of course, 6-0 on the season, another undefeated team. You were at that game. Tell me a little bit of what you saw from Webb.
Well, I think it was also questions coming in with, would Webb City drag on the road at Willard? Would it be another, they were on the road at Branson, they didn't play well? Would they drag coming off the high of the Carthage game and just first play of the game? They threw all of that out the window. They went with a reverse pass, Alex Gaskell, Jacob Monroe, that broke for 65 yards. What you saw was a big part was a balanced attack, 190 rushing yards, 158 passing yards, 65 of that coming on that reverse. But it's amazing because what Webb City did, and it's kind of like we have to persuade people, they were throwing the ball because they wanted to, not because they needed to. All along the way in the first half, designed passes by Cade Beeson, finding Gary Clinton, the second tight end in that system, finding Alex Gaskell, finding Terrell Kabbalah, finding Jacob Monroe more. Now Webb City, they showed they're opening up the playbook. And what they did, at no point in this game did they ever let off. When they went to the run game, when they went to the heralded split back veer, they were running the ball effortlessly. And all three of their running backs got involved because now Kane Parks is emerging as well. Durand Henderson, 2 scores, his second one being 40-plus yards. Devin Weathers with a long run, broke plenty of them too. None of them broke more than 70 yards. What I like about this, though, is that they came into this game, and you can tell they wanted to throw the ball. They wanted to show people that they have to prepare for that passing attack now. We forget Cade Beeson. If he didn't have a big 5 pitcher in front of him that went off to Nebraska, he would have been the ace on that Webb City baseball team as a junior. He is a good baseball player. What they come out now, these designed passes, and it's in real time. It's meaningful minutes. Go back to Neosho game. Cole Gaiman steps in. First play, throws a touchdown pass to Alex Gaskell. Coach Roderick wants him to have that real experience, those meaningful minutes experience. He does the same thing. They could have done it in the 4th quarter. They could have done this in practice. They want to execute it right from the beginning of the game, show they can throw the ball, because now everyone's going to watch this film and go, oh no, now we got to prepare for a Webb City team that can throw the ball, because they have one of the best athletes on the field in Terrell Kabbalah, one of the best high-point ball receivers in Alex Gaskell. We know the running backs they got there. When you have to prepare everywhere, you're not prepared anywhere. They can no longer hone in on the split back veer. So now good luck when you see that midweek of the season. You've been preparing for the pass game or you've been playing for the split back veer. These looks are going to get you. And I mean, the play action, it cannot be more of a threat coming out of a Webb City offense, a Lamar offense, teams like that, a Cassville offense that are so run heavy but still have the athletes to beat you in the long game.
Absolutely. And we go back to last week. They start off 2 touchdown passes. We also saw the little play where Devin Weathers tried to throw a little touchdown pass that would have happened had Cole Winder not got his hand on it. So I mean, we've seen the passing. We saw it come out in this one, the reverse pass from Gaskell. So yeah, you're right. And when you have a defense that's now thinking, well, we have to stop Durand, we have to stop Devin, we have to stop Cade on the ground. Cade's going to hit you over the top, and it's been working really well for Webb City. And it's been great to kind of see because, we're so used to it, and everybody was talking about, well, Webb will just run it down your throats. Well, now we're seeing them open up the playbook a little bit more, and it is frustrating when you're a team coming in and you haven't prepared for that.
And they still had the ability to. I mean, they were running the rock fine. A few drives did stall because what Willard was doing is forcing everything inside, mainly taking out Devin, taking out Durand, forcing Cade Beeson to run the ball. And then also on Willard's offense, what they were doing, going 4-5 wides, receiver-wise. Even the big running back they had, number 26, Andrew Rice, they were putting him, splitting him out. They wanted to try and stretch that defense thin. Now, I came back Friday night, and it looked like Alex Gaskell was playing a little bit more of linebacker. What Willard was doing essentially was forcing him, whether he was at the safety position or at linebacker, they were bringing him out wide. We saw Cale McAllister have to step up, make a few plays at corner. Terrell Kabbalah playing well at corner, too. And they were stretching the defense thin, but they still could not really break through on this. And they even go into the second half, Dylan Walker, their big-time defensive tackle. He's right there as a nose guard. They found his way into the end zone, too. They know to get the ball, and they're just going to continue to show all their colors because they don't care. Webb City, the confidence in that offense is, you know what we're going to run, but can you stop it? 14 times, no one has been able to stop it, 11 of those under John Roderick.
That's right. Let's move on now. Joplin It was a 0-0 game down in Neosho last week at halftime, and I think a lot of people were just like, what happened? You kind of said that. You didn't think it was going to be 0-0, but you said, hey, Neosho has a tough defense. They'll play you tough. In the end, the final score, Joplin 20, Neosho 6.
And this is a game that Joplin got this win with Blake Tash, nor Isaiah Davis, nor Zach Westmoreland having more than 60 yards individually between all of them. They found a way because it goes back to the creativity that Curtis Jasper brings to it. Remember last year and last season when they had this run, we did not know who that starting running back was because there would be Tank Bartlett nights where he'd have all the scores in the goal line. Then Isaiah Davis emerged towards the end of the year. Jake Flowers was getting run at running back. What they did, they went to the jumbo Wildcat, Zach Westmoreland, 2 scores from running the ball, and then he had a pick 6 himself to ice the game. I credit Neosho because why I liked them was I trusted that defense so much. I saw it click towards the end of the year, and they picked right up at this point in the season, right from the bat. I mean, they already have 3 wins. They had 2 last year, Ethan, second one coming in districts. So what they can do, and they'll just line up man on man. They got the big guys up front. They will out-physical you. You got to beat them. Joplin struggled with that physicality in the first half. They came out with the creativity in their athletes in the second half. And a big shout out, I mean, Curtis Jasper got his 100th career win. No better way to get a win than with your boys with their backs up against the wall. You have to go into halftime. You have to make adjustments. They pulled through, and they earn it like that.
Absolutely. Congrats again to Coach Curtis Jasper on win number 100, and a game that he had to earn that one, definitely. Let's move on now. Fort Scott, Labette County. We're making our trip into Kansas here. Fort Scott, they win this one 21-6. They were down 6-0 after Easton Dean threw a little out route that ended up going to the house, and then Matt Campbell kind of responded in this game, and we've talked about this a little bit. That might be 2 guys that one we know is a D1 quarterback. He's going to Iowa State and Easton Dean, but you have a lot of faith in the size and the ability of Matt Campbell, and I think on Friday he played lights out.
I still got to see more from him. I want to see, I think, accuracy. Above all, above arm strength, if you're an accurate passer, you will always find a job at the next level. You'll find a way to play at the next level. So I just got to see a little more from Matt Campbell. But you're right, he did step up over 200 passing yards. But the guy that should get the belt, that gets the real win in this one, or who should get the glory, the Fort Scott offensive line, but Alex Michaud, the running back, ran for 55 yards in a score, but also Matt Campbell's first touchdown pass of the game. Simple slant dig route to Michaud, and he broke tackle 70 yards to the house. He made plays, and as you'd like to see a receiving back, made moves in open space, made tacklers miss in open field, made Matt Campbell look good, and Fort Scott got another win.
And Fort Scott bouncing back from that loss to Pittsburgh, that 17-14 loss where they had to come back in that one. Let's get a little bit of quick hitters now. Let's start off with Carthage. They ended up beating Branson 42-7. Patrick Carlton had 4 touchdowns on the night. What was your biggest takeaway from seeing this?
Second straight week, 140-plus rushing yards. Last week coming against the best defense in the area in Webb City, and it shows that that wasn't a fluke, him playing up to the moment. He still has that determination, put your head down and run. Completed a few passes to Jaden Morgan, though. That's what surprised me. We weren't sure, is Patrick Carlton as refined of a passer as we've seen Zeke Sappington in the past? Didn't really see him emerge with that this season. But they went into the locker room up 42-0, able to rest the starters in the second half. Still no Zeke Sappington, still no Tyler Mueller. And this offense keeps producing, keeps clicking. Hats off to the offensive line, to Blake Schrader, to Patrick Mueller as well. Getting the job done as the backups has to step up on the offensive side, and their defense limiting Branson to under 200 total yards of offense. That's why I was such a big believer in Carthage last week. They will win at the line of scrimmage. Their defense is a very good defense. If you miss an assignment against them, some teams, you miss an assignment, you can still break a 5, 10, 15-yard run. You miss an assignment against Carthage, that is getting stopped at the line of scrimmage or in the backfield. That's what they continually do. This is another team, and Ethan, I'm serious, I think in Class 2, 3, 4, and 5, even in Class 1 with Pierce City, we can see a lot of late runs. Class 5 is going to be Carthage, one of the best teams in the state by far.
I'm agreeing with you on that one. I really think Carthage has a great run on them. Another quick hitter here, Carl Junction. They won 21-7 over Nick, so they're back to 500 on the season, and we saw a change from quarterback to running back.
Yeah, Alex Baker in at quarterback. He started the second half last week. Joe Kennedy at running back. We saw that continue. Baker went down, but I believe it's just a sprained ankle from what I've heard, and he will be okay. It's not a high ankle sprain, just a sprained ankle. That'll happen. But we saw Joe Kennedy, finally all the rumors. How could he play at running back? He's so athletic. He's an all-state track athlete. Can he play in the backfield and make plays outside of that? He did. Alex Baker himself playing well. But hats off to the defense. 7 turnovers total, one of those coming on a kickoff where they forced a fumble. So 6 by the defense, 4 interceptions, 2 fumbles recovered. How physically they played, they finally showed up. That's the Bulldog defense we were looking for all season long, Ethan.
And now how it's going to Lamar, just continuing to win, continuing to win, continuing to win. We say it almost every week. We are a broken record with it, but they beat East Newton 65-0. East Newton now on an 18-game losing streak, while we're looking at Lamar on a 55-game winning streak. So Lamar, what's your biggest takeaway from what you saw from that one?
Lamar's Lamar.
Okay.
And this is they're still yet to score less than 43 points, but we saw who everyone who ate. Trevor Medlin with the kick return for a touchdown and a rushing score as well. Landon Hardman, multiple punt returns. Medlin as well. Hardman through the air. So they're going to run the ball. And as I mentioned with Cade Beeson, Duncan Gepner's a starting catcher on that baseball team in Lamar who's dang good themselves. He can throw the ball. We can't forget that. Same thing. As I said with Webb City, now you're going to see Lamar. They can throw the ball. They also have the athletes they need. J.D. Bishop, a basketball player playing football. He'll go up, high point the ball. Bailey Gammon, who's made plays through the air. Landon Hardman, I love him because he's a throwback dude. Doesn't play with gloves on. He just trusts his paws. He trusts his mitts to go out and make plays. What I was always concerned with was, would we see the same running attack? Because my impression, or my first impression of Lamar was Cooper Lucas in the backfield.
Right.
They lose a workhorse like that. Someone that big should never run that fast. That's hats off to Coop. Well, they come in with Hardman, and they come in with Juice Medlin, and they show us what they can do. The creativity is there too in Lamar. And same thing. You know what they're going to run. Can you figure it out? A, I can't, the spinning quarterback.
No.
But can you stop it? B, no.
And here we go. Let's move on now. Pierce City still undefeated as well. You mentioned them as well. A team that you think in Class 1 could go to the Final Four at least. They beat Marionville 26-0, and they've been kind of cruising in that new Southwest Conference.
And I mean, the tough part, you got to give it to Pierce City, is after that 13-6 win over Sarcoxy, 2 of their wins have been 50-plus points that they've scored. That's their 3rd straight road win or 4th straight road win. They're about to have a 5th straight road game coming up too. So they're stringing together these wins, not at home. 2 home games in the beginning of the season, 2 home games in the end of the season. That's how their schedule is laid out. How it happened is beyond me. But Brad Hawker's guys, they're playing well. The Eagles are, being tough mentally and tough physically as well to get through this part of their schedule.
Absolutely. You don't host every playoff game either, so that might be a big move for them as well if they're able to win all these games on the road.
You can never undersell that experience. That's a good point, Ethan, that on the road, get used to playing that. You're not in your locker rooms. You got to get on long bus rides. You got to be prepared to play anywhere in the state, and that's what they're getting used to right now.
Absolutely, George. And now, as we always like to do, we turn and make some different changes every week. We don't always do the call of the week. Sometimes we do top plays. And let's take a look at some of the top plays from Week 6. And how about it, some top plays? Those were pretty awesome to see. Again, a good recap of what we saw throughout on Friday night. We didn't always get to see those, so it was pretty cool to see some of those.
And like I said, we saw Patrick Carlton air out the ball. We saw what Juice can do for Lamar with that kick return for a touchdown, give the energy. You see those types of players, and it was Cale McAllister at corner because he's a resurged kid put into that starting lineup. When they make those big plays, how everyone on the team kind of elevates. There's always those guys on the team. You expect others to make big plays. When there's certain individuals do step up, make big plays for the offense or the defense, brings the whole team up. That's what Trevor Medlin is. That's what Patrick Carlton is becoming for Carthage, McAllister, and Webb City as well.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit now about our new game of the weekend. record-wise, you might look at it and say, maybe not. But Galena, they come in this game undefeated. They're 5-0, a very talented squad. And they're taking on a Baxter Springs squad that has had some great moments on their season. They have one win. They're 1-4, but it's a rivalry game. I mean, they're right down the road from each other. Obviously not as close as Galena Riverton, but Galena Baxter, we know the fan bases will come out to support both these teams. And yes, on paper, you're looking at it and say, well, Galena should just run away with this one. But we've mentioned before, a lot of times in games that are rivalry games, you see a lot of teams come out and they play with an extra gear that they didn't even know they had.
Yeah, and that's what you wonder with, can Baxter step up? But what I see with Galena, we know the talent they have in the backfield. They will be playing shorthanded, it appears, this week or possibly for the rest of the season. With Baxter Springs, do they have more than Trey White? Can they show what more guys need to step up? To me, that's a big thing with the disparity between these two programs, Ethan, is with Coach Sarwinski and what he's built at Galena. They churn out these guys. They got the big dudes up front, but they have the athletes in the backfield. You don't typically find in Southeast Kansas. That elevates them above others. Will we see the Galena in that Frontenac game? Will we see Galena that doesn't show up? Or for Baxter, like you said, will we see the 1-win Baxter or the 4-loss Baxter?
Absolutely. Let's see if we can take some looks at what we've seen thus far from both of these teams throughout the season. I know Galena, as I mentioned, 5-0. Let's see if we get J.C. Shelton up here running the ball a little bit. That's probably one of my biggest points here. When you see J.C. Shelton and he gets into open field, man, you have to try and get as many people around him to stop him possible. But that doesn't always happen, as you can see, as he broke touchdowns against Frontenac, who has a great defense. Trey White, of course, we know he has a pretty decent arm. He also can play defense very well. The issue is there's a lot of turnover bugs that happen for Baxter Springs, but with Galena, that's not always the case. They have great running backs. They have talented running backs. We talk about Cooper Lawson. We talk about J.C. Shelton at quarterback. He's also a running back if you really look at it. And then, of course, Nick Sarwinski having to step up as well, as we know Joseph Helton being injured.
Yeah, and I think that's a big part. Who can step up? Because Joseph Helton, if he goes down for the remainder of the season, that's huge cleats to fill. Galena was able to get that done this past week. Can they continue to build upon that? And you're right, but that's the insurance that they have. The name, like you mentioned, Nick Sarwinski, who's made plays in the past, earlier in the season, as we've seen, now on a consistent basis. Right. It's your turn now. Have you been preparing all summer like it's your turn? Have you been preparing the past few weeks in game film, in practice, in the weight room, to be ready to step up and take on the workload that Helton leaves behind?
Absolutely, and we'll talk a little bit more about the game of the week. We'll tweet it out on Friday is what we'll do, our pick for that. And talking about picks, we move into predictions. Unfortunately, George, I let you down last week, and I'm now tied with Andy. So I know you're not happy with me, but
I still think I think being tied is worse than losing.
I know. I gambled, and sometimes I have a little bit of faith, and I do that sometimes. But let's start off. Carl Junction, they're 3-3. They're on the road at Neosho, who's also 3-3. I'm going to let you start off with this one right here.
And this is big because this is for district seeding, because those two, Neosho is currently second in their district, Carl's third. So this could play into obviously higher seeding, home field advantage if those two would or should meet again. What I think, and I look at that, is a basis where I look at both teams the most is who has a better defense. I'm a bigger believer in this Neosho defense than I am that Carl Junction defense. And Carl scoring 21 points, that's their highest scoring output of the season. That's not the Carl Junction we've seen before. So the offense to me, has not yet clicked, not getting it done, no matter who's at quarterback, no matter who's at running back. I think Neosho, you know what you'll get from them because they're not a big play-reliant offense. They'll go out, they'll run the wishbone, they'll run the ball at you. And like I said, the big guys up front is what handle it on offense and defense for them. That's why I'll take Neosho in this one. And to me, this still should be seen as an underdog. You go with the pedigree of Carl, but I think Neosho steps up and gets this win.
Absolutely. I like Gage Kelly in this. I think Gage Kelly, after last week, what we saw them able to hang around there, and Cade Lyra, we know that they have the ability to get their offense going. I'm going to go with Neosho as well. I think Neosho has a little bit of just fire underneath them, and we saw that against Joplin, and I'm thinking they're going to bring that out as well as in this next one. Let's move on here. Lamar at McDonald County. McDonald County scoring on Cassville. I don't know if that's going to happen too much with Lamar. I think Lamar is going to come out and do what Lamar does best, and they're going to win.
That's it. As I said before, what happened in Lamar's game this past week, Lamar will be Lamar. And they're one of those teams that will take you out of your comfort zone because they can completely eliminate, as you saw with Trevor Medellin on that kick return, they can eliminate special teams. They can eliminate a phase of the ball because they execute it so well. And that's a part that they'll do. They have the secondary to shut down that passing game. They have the front seven to lock down that run game. And as we said for Cassville going into the game, that was the biggest front they're going to see. Well, Well, we know the three big dudes that Lamar brings with him, led by Caleb Gouge, on the run attack, and also defensively, they have big dudes up front too. I think that's what's going to be the biggest problem for Matt County. To me, Lamar, just with their defense, will continue to believe in it, continue to believe in no one can stop that offense, or at least contain it. That's why I'll take Lamar in this one.
Seneca at Mount Vernon. Seneca picks up their second win. I'm going to go with Mount Vernon, though. Will Boswell and Zach Jones have just been on fire.
Yeah, and it's funny because if a year ago, I would say I don't know if they have an answer for Will Boswell on defense. Coming off a 2-touchdown performance this past Friday night, I don't know if they can stop Will Boswell on offense. I still think Seneca is missing a lot of pieces from last year's defense that made them one of the top-tier teams in the area, so that will continue to hinder them. I'll take Mount Vernon in this one as well.
Fort Scott at Chanute. Chanute 4-1 coming in this one, but I don't think that other than playing Pittsburgh, they haven't played anybody, and Pittsburgh was very talented when they played them, shut them out. I'm going to go with Fort Scott. I'm going to go with Campbell and his pedigree and what he's brought to the table as well.
They have the similar layout of the schedule in the same conference, and what they've done, they'll beat up on Independence, sure they'll beat up on Ottawa, but that's why I look at that Pittsburgh game. Fort Scott losing 17-14, Chanute losing 52-0. You see the biggest difference there. I'll take Fort Scott in this one.
Absolutely. And now let's kind of turn over to our sports Schwami. He's now tied for the lead again, so we have to believe everything he says, right? That's what we go with. Let's go with what Andy has picked for this week. We turn to Andy Searcy. Andy's taking Galena in our game of the week. He's got Neosho over Carl Junction. He's got Lamar winning, Mount Vernon winning, and Fort Scott winning as well. So we'll see. We all go the same way this week. Maybe we'll see with our game of the week. We'll see what happens, but so far, the other four games we're all picking the same with Andy. So if anything, we'll end up tied, I guess, in this one. So I'm going to have to keep hoping that we make some sort of weird thing late in the season.
I think we should start screwing with his picks. He texts them into you, I assume?
Yeah.
Does he send a pigeon with the message to him?
Yeah, no, he does text them into me, but I can't do that to him. I like the competition.
There's
I think
honor
we're good
here.
Right
There's
now.
honor
Absolutely. Here. There's honor among thieves, right? That's what we're going to say,
yeah,
maybe?
Sure. Let's go with that.
We'll
Let's
do
roll.
that. We're on a pirate ship here. But anyway, we of course, that's what we're looking at this week. Don't forget on Friday night, Thursday night, you guys can tune in to KOD, check out what the forecast is going to be like, whether it's Ray, whether it's Adam, whether it's Coleman, who may or may not be in this room. We can't say. That's a secret right now. But yeah, so tune in, see what you guys got, see what we got forecast-wise, and see what you guys might want to wear. It could be rainy, it could be sunny, it could be cold. We don't know. George will gamble on it, though.
I hope it's the second of those three options.
Okay, yeah,
absolutely.
You said
sunny.
Well, of course, you guys, thank you guys so much for tuning in on the only place that you can catch Beyond the Sidelines, which is 4stateshomepage.com. He is George Belecci. I'm Ethan Schmidt. Thank you guys so much for watching.
This is Beyond the Sidelines with Ethan Schmidt and George Belecci, only on 4stateshomepage.com.